Hi everyone. So I actually haven't done a reading wrap up in quite a while. I think honestly it's been like half a year. I'm not really sure why that is because I love doing these. I think just every time I sat down to do one I'm like, oh, I'll wait until I have more to talk about. So I wanted to talk about all the books that I read from basically the beginning of this year up until now. I want to do these monthly, but I accumulate them after a couple of months. I'm not the quickest reader in the whole world, but I have read some great books. So actually this is a mixed bag. This is like some great books and then like two quite bad ones. Also, something I wanted to do, as I mentioned before in some videos, in 2024 I really want to focus on finishing a series I'm in the middle of, and actually I'm doing that. Like, I'm really doing that, so I'm glad about that. So actually I'll kick this off with the Crescent City series. So the first book is House of Earth and Blood, and then the second book is House of Sky and Breath. I'm aware Flame and Shadow is out, but I haven't read it yet. I read Crescent City actually around Christmas time going into the new year, and then I read House of Sky and Breath around January. I think I have a vlog of me reading the last chapter of this, and if you know, you know. It's quite crazy. And of course these are by Sarah J Maas, who wrote the Throne of Glass series and the ACOTAR series, and I actually picked these up because of Flame and Shadow. Actually, I know I know I haven't got to it yet, but I was like, oh, I really want to get to them. I really enjoyed the ACOTAR series, and I was like, I want to be ready for the new book when it comes out. So I dived into these two and really enjoyed myself. So these are slightly different to the ACOTAR series. These are urban fantasy and they're definitely more adult. So this follows Bryce, who is half fae, half human, and it's about her best friend Danica as well, who's a wolf shapeshifter, and they live in the city where lots of different types of creatures live. So there's a character in here that's a mermaid, there's fauns, there's angels. Actually, the city is run by archangels. They're kind of the highest up. Bryce is looked down upon a little bit by the fae because she's only half fae. However, she kind of uses that to her advantage. I think she kind of plays up being a kind of vapid party girl, but in secret she's actually very smart. Moral of this story is there's a murder mystery and Bryce is involved in it. The other main character, Hunt, then is kind of assigned to watch over her, and both of them kind of team up to solve this mystery. So obviously kind of a romance element to it. It's more or less a romantasy, I would say, especially Sky and Breath. I feel like Sky and Breath is much more a romance book than this one. This one's definitely more of a murder mystery. Sky and Breath then is much more a political intrigue book. Just Bryce and her brother Rune and Hunt and the rest of them basically understanding what's going on in their world and who's actually running the show. The last chapter of this like just blew me out of the water. And I think it blew a lot of people out of the water. It just was really exciting. I have seen some critiques of these books that they're quite slow. I actually quite like that. I kind of like slower, maybe more slice of life. Now I know obviously murder mystery is not slice of life, but I kind of enjoy that. It does have a like maybe slightly slower pace. However, the endings of both these books are very high stakes and very exciting. So I think my critiques of it are kind of the same that I have with ACOTAR. I think there is some maybe say like slightly sillier aspects of the story. You have to suspend your disbelief a little bit sometimes. I think Maas loves her melodrama. It can veer on the side of cringy just very slightly, and I found that with ACOTAR as well. I don't know about Throne of Glass, I've never read them. I gave them 4. They're realistically for me they're about a 4.5, and I really enjoyed both of these as much as the other. I think the world building is quite heavy in this one, and I think I enjoyed just going into this book knowing everything. It was really nice knowing the characters and knowing the world and not having to build things up in my head because I had to do it for this book. Once it clicks, it's not the most complex thing in the whole world, but I really just like thoroughly enjoyed these books and I definitely would highly recommend them. I think I am a Crescent City person. I need to read Throne of Glass to see, but I do love the ACOTAR series, but I think I like these just like slightly more. I've heard mixed things about Flame and Shadow, but I actually cannot wait to get to it. That same kind of feeling of like I know the characters and I know the world, so I feel like I can just like dive right into it. I am really excited to start it, so I love these. If you really liked ACOTAR, you will like these. If you like your romantasy with a like slightly more complex world, I really like the characters in this. I like Hunt and Bryce's dynamic. I love Rune. I think he's my favorite character. It's multiple POV, and I think every time it was Rune's POV I was just really happy. You definitely get more POVs in this book, which I also really enjoyed. So yeah, just a fun but also heartbreaking time. It's just pure escapism. I think that's why I really, really enjoyed them. I just fell straight into the world and just got consumed by it, so I really enjoyed these. But yeah, it definitely is one of those things, if you don't really like the ACOTAR series, you probably won't like these, and vice versa. If you like them, you'll like these. I love that these were set in a city, so you have these fantasy characters with like mobile phones and going to nightclubs and working in museums. I just had a great time. I can't wait to move to Flame and Shadow. So continuing on with series I'm in the middle of, I read The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. So this is book 2 in the Raven cycle. I read The Raven Boys back in September, and I actually got the rest of them for Christmas because I loved that book so much. It was an easy 5 stars. This was 5 stars for me as well. I know I'm too old technically for the target audience for this, but I feel like these books were written for me. I love them. I'm actually excited that I'm taking it slowly. Like, I'm excited that I have 2 more books to read. I'm just excited that they're on my shelf ready to be read. What I liked about this book is you get Ronan's perspective, and you didn't get his perspective in the first book for a good reason, and it delves into that for this book. So the series as a whole, it's definitely atmosphere over plot. I would say atmosphere and characters. You have this character called Blue, and I think she's 16 years old, and she actually grows up in this like psychic commune. So she lives with her mother and all these other psychics, and Blue herself doesn't have any powers, but she can amplify other people's powers. But at the beginning of the first book, she actually finds out that this boy called Gansey is going to die within a year. That's not a spoiler, that is the start of the book. She also herself has been told that when she kisses her true love, he will die. You can put 2 and 2 together there, but she's not sure if it's any boy or if it's her true love. She's not quite sure. And that seems to be the selling point. Even on all the blurbs, that seems to be the selling point. And I'm like, that is such a minor thing about the plot. She's obviously not too well off, but she actually ends up falling into this friendship group of boys that go to the really prestigious rich school. So it's based in Virginia in a made-up town called Henrietta. And Gansey and his friends, so Ronan, Noah and Adam, are all searching for this Welsh king that is basically buried on this ley line. And Gansey has his reasons, I won't say, but he has his reasons for trying to solve this mystery, trying to find him. And it's known that if you wake him up, I think you'll be granted a wish. It's funny, I thought it would be kind of like a school-based book, however it's not. The boys are in their cars all the time. Like, that's a really weird tidbit, but if you like cars, you'll like these books because the boys are in their cars all the time. They're driving everywhere. Ronan loves his drag races. There's a lot of like exploring forests and like all these ley lines and exploring Virginia. It's really atmospheric and magical. It's definitely a warm hug of a book. That's how I feel. Like, I just love reading these. But yeah, I can tell these are going to be books I'm going to like come back and read just because I feel like I'm coming home. Like, I know I sound dramatic, but I just love these. It's very much a character driven story. So the rest of the boys, you have Ronan, of course, again from a very wealthy family. However, he's kind of acting out at the moment after witnessing his father's death, so he's not studying, he's kind of acting out, and you kind of understand why in this book. You also have Adam as well, who's there on a scholarship. He's definitely not from the same background as Gansey and Ronan. He's actually from a trailer park, and he's like studying, he's trying to work, and he's doing his best to not be a charity case. He really does not want help from Gansey or anyone. And Gansey himself, you can tell that he can come off patronizing in ways, but actually he just really wants to help. And then you have Noah as well. Especially in the first book, you think he's kind of like the comic relief character, but he's actually so integral. But yeah, that's something I absolutely love about these books, is the humor. Is like, I think not everyone would like the humor of these books, but I really do like them. I remember in this book though, there's another like villain character in this plot, and I didn't love his point of view as much as like the rest of the boys in blue. This was still a straight 5-star for me. There's a magic system in this that is Latin based. Ronan's abilities are just really cool. Everything ties in together really well. I think the plotting is really good. I love the writing style. What I love about the plot actually, and I know what people say these are more character driven than a plot based book, however the plot of this is like totally unique. Even me describing it, I'm like, this sounds so wacky, but it works so well. And it's so hard to predict. Like, I don't know how the series is going to go. There's like slight romance elements to it too. It's honestly, I was going to say love triangle, but obviously a love square. These are just beautiful. They're beautiful books. I'm eating these up and I'm just so excited. And of course, both of the first 2 books have ended on a huge cliffhanger, so I'm excited to get on to book 3. There is also a spin-off series, thank God, because I'm like 4 books is not enough, which actually features Ronan. So I love these books. I highly recommend them. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if someone read them and didn't love them. I think there's a certain type of reader, and if you watch my videos and know my taste, like similar books to me, you will like this as well. So I think if you like maybe Six of Crows, you'll probably like these, like kind of the found family elements to it. But yeah, I could harp on about these forever. I love them so much. I can't wait to move on. But I am happy knowing there's 2 books that I haven't read yet. I'm just excited. The next books I have actually are graphic novels. So I have the Olympus books, volumes 2 and 3. I read volume 1 like last year, and I wanted to get back into it because I had a couple of the copies. So I read volume 2 and 3. I have 4 and 5. I think 6 and 7 are coming out this year. So these are from Rachel Smith, who is actually a webtoon author. So these are available to read on the webtoon app or on the website. So if you don't want to buy these physically, you can read them there. However, I am just a physical reading person. I am not a Kindle person. I'm not a screens person. I love just reading things physically. So I am trying to collect these. A little bit like, I would say, Crescent City. It's an urban fantasy setting. However, it's Olympus, so it's Greek mythology. So it's like a Olympus if it was New York, if that makes sense. And this story is about Hades and Persephone and their love story, basically. So volumes 2 and 3 are definitely more Persephone just moving to Olympus and kind of settling in, and you're kind of seeing where the obstacles of them being together are kind of really showing now. So what I like about these 2, I didn't have like a big knowledge of Greek mythology, and you don't need to in order to enjoy these, though I think if you are into Greek mythology, you'll really love these. I'd say there's definitely elements of maybe the personality traits of each of the gods are probably quite true to the original stories, but this is quite a humorous story, but it's also quite dark. So it is kind of melancholic in a lot of ways. There's a lot of like dark themes. SA, for example, kind of toxic relationships. However, it's also very light and funny. Like, I think Rachel Smith is an incredible illustrator and storyteller. When she wants to be funny, she's hilarious. I think it's just really well written and really good. But yeah, definitely if you're a Greek mythology lover, you will love these, I think. But also generally, if you want a good graphic novel to read, I think these are really good. Something I really like is that all the Greek gods are color coded. So Hades is blue, Persephone's pink, I think Zeus is purple and Poseidon is green. You know, like I think it's a nice way to differentiate the characters. So I really like the colour palette and the art style. It is really nice. So it's a really good mix of like maybe lightheartedness and fun, but also quite serious topics as well. And I think the balance of it is done really well. Yeah, I really want to read more of these as they're coming out. Okay, the next book I read, which was so excellent, was Bridgerton #2. So this is The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn. And I was so shocked because I gave the first book 2 stars. I didn't quite like it, but I loved this one. I really enjoyed it. So Bridgerton, obviously, I think it's more well known for the Netflix show that it's become, and each season is based on a different couple. So each book is about the 8 Bridgerton siblings. So this book is about Anthony, who is the eldest son. So he's the Viscount, he's kind of the head of the household because their fathers passed away. And yeah, he's quite notorious, he's quite known as a rake, as they say. But he actually has kind of come to the conclusion that he needs to settle down. He does not want to fall in love because he doesn't want to hurt anyone. So he just decides to go for the most eligible girl at the time. And it happens to be this girl called Edwina. So he kind of pursues Edwina. However, Edwina's sister Kate is totally against it, and she does everything in her power to like stop it happening. It is a very good enemies to lovers story. It's very good. Like, Kate and Anthony hate each other, but the pacing of their romance is really good. Their chemistry is so real. It's very believable. You can see how the penny drops so well about when they turn to liking each other. It's dramatic and heartbreaking in places. It's so funny how Anthony has like zero chemistry with Edwina and then so much with Kate. Like, it's done very well. But yeah, I loved this, and I actually watched the show immediately afterwards, which I also really loved. So season 2, Anthony's season, they definitely make a lot of changes, but a lot of things are still very much the same. I think when they change things in the show, they definitely modernize some things because these were written, I think, in the year 2000 or 2001, and then obviously they're based on Regency, England, so there definitely is some maybe like comments maybe about women, for example, that aren't great, especially some things that Anthony says to Kate. So just bear that in mind, and obviously I couldn't give it a 5-star because of it, but it was close. It was close. I enjoyed reading this so much. It was 4 for me, definitely. What I loved about this book as well is how human Anthony and Kate felt, like their separate life stories, their own fears, their motivations for doing things. They just felt very real. They felt very, very believable as characters. Their romance felt very believable. I was so shocked how much I enjoyed this. I really was, because I actually think this was written better. I feel like edited better than the first book as well. It's not like the crazy best writing I've ever read, but the 4 stars is based on enjoyment for me. Felt the characters were real and how human they felt. I thought they were very believable. Yeah, definitely some changes that happen in the show. I think there's a few things that kind of happen in here that are like on the borderline of silly, but you know, it's a Regency romance. I don't want to take it too seriously. But yeah, this really surprised me, really surprised me. I think if you weren't a fan of the first book, give this one a go. You might really enjoy it. I know the next season of Bridgerton is going to be Colin and Penelope. That's actually book 4, so they're skipping a book. I think they're going to go back to 3, which is Benedict's story. I am dying to read them, so I really want to read 3 and 4 before season 3 comes out, so I'm definitely going to get on this. I just had an absolutely great time reading this book. Okay, we're moving on to the bad. I've got 2 books left to talk about and they're not great. I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember what happens in this book. I don't know how to give a review of it. Yeah, this is the Vampire Diaries book 2, so this is The Struggle, and it was a struggle. I think I gave it 2 stars. 2 stars for me is a little bit like, it was bad, but it had some redeeming qualities. It's like a car crash, you can't look away. I have the whole series. I don't really know why I bought the box set, I'm not gonna lie. But here's my thing. I kind of like reading bad books. I think it makes me realise what I do like by comparison, and like what is bad writing, what is good writing. It was like a bad good time. It's a bit silly. Anyway, I gave it the 2 stars because the ending of this was actually pretty okay. It was actually pretty exciting. The setup for book 3, pretty good, not gonna lie, so I'll give her dues. But yeah, these came out in the 90s. Again, I think this is more famous for the TV show. I think it was by CWS who made that back in like, I think the early 2010s, I think. I never watched the show, never read the book, so I wasn't quite sure. So this is about 2 vampire brothers called Stefan and Damon. So they are very much enemies. They really don't like each other. Stefan kind of wants to be quiet. He tends to feed on animals rather than humans. He wants to fit in with humans, where Damon's like, no, I'm a vampire. Give me all the power. Give me all the blood. They're very much at each other's necks. At each other's necks, huh? How they become vampires kind of starts their feud. Elena is the main character of the story. Oh, she's something else. However, Elena kind of reminds Stefan of someone he knew back 500 years previous, and he ends up falling in love with her. Elena is funny. She's this like, and I've mentioned this before, she's like this Regina George type character, very much mean girl, uses people around her, which is actually quite an interesting POV to read from. However, I do not know what the author wants you to think about Elena. I have no idea, because like she's so unlikable and she's built up to be so unlikable, but I think the author wants you to like her. I actually think it is quite interesting. She's very selfish. Her friends have to go along with her ideas. Very much no common sense. What I do not like about this book, and what pulls it down so much, is the romance, and obviously that is the main thing about these books. And Elena and Stefan just like fall for each other immediately. It's I love you straight away. This is a long series. There's 16 books. She could have like built up to it a little bit so it'd be a little bit more believable. However, I think they want to play with the love triangle idea. I'm not sure. It hasn't got into that yet. I don't believe any of the romance things about it, so that is a pity. I actually think this is a decent vampire story, not a good love story, which is a pity because that just pulls everything down. The writing also is not great, so it's a funny book. You know, you read these in one sitting. This, I do remember this very much following on immediately from book 1. It is just interesting not being able to sympathise with the main character, because when she believes her aunt, for example, is being unfair to her, I'm on the aunt's side. Like, I'm on her friend's side when they tell her, no, Elena, don't do that. It's not great. I actually think I will keep going for the first set of books, which is book 4, and just see how I feel. But it is like a good bad time. I think the show has changed things like dramatically. I think some of the character names are just really the only thing that is the same, so you don't necessarily need to read these before you watch the show, I think. But yeah, I will say I think just having the mean girl as the main character is interesting. I don't know, is it good, but it's interesting. To be honest, I thought the ending of this one in particular was decent. It actually did build up to want to read the 3rd book. So that's that. It's kind of campy, you know, like it's kind of fun, but yeah, definitely not winning any literary prizes. So this one, I was kind of expecting this to be bad. This, on the other hand, I was like, oh, I was quite disappointed in it. So this is A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this is the 2nd book in the From Blood and Ash series. And these are definitely I don't want to say ACOTAR ripoff, but I definitely know Armentrout is definitely trying to write a story a little bit like ACOTAR. And I do think actually if you like the ACOTAR series, you probably will like these. In terms of, the story's not similar, but just in terms of like the romantasy elements, maybe the target audience is definitely the same. So the first book, in all honesty, it wasn't great. For me, it was a 3-star. I actually really enjoyed the plot, but the writing just took it down so much. And then for this book, just the plot was nowhere. Like, there was no plot. It was like one big like journey across the continents, some sex, that's about it. A kind of will they won't they romance, which was so obvious that it's a will they. Like, it wasn't like executed the best. And I know this is actually quite a long series. I think there is like 4 or 5 books in this series, but I think some of them are gonna go off for different characters, I think. So I think Armentrout is playing the long game here, so maybe she didn't want to put too much plot in here. But yeah, this just fell flat for me a little bit. The first book is about Poppy. She is the representative of this kingdom, and she is supposed to ascend to the gods. She has to be found worthy in order for everyone else to be found worthy in this kingdom, and to do so she's kind of kept away, so she can't interact with society. She really can't talk to people. The only relationship she has is like with her guards. This story is also kind of a vampire book, kind of vampire werewolf powers, like that kind of coded type book. Poppy ends up finding out that powers that be are like hiding things from the general public. She has a good relationship with her guard, Victor, I think his name is. He's kind of a father figure to her. He helps her to sneak out when she wants to. He teaches her how to fight. She gets a new guard called Hawk, and she ends up having a bit of a forbidden romance with him. So actually the first book, I quite enjoyed the plotting. I quite enjoyed the unraveling of the story, and I really liked the kind of dramatic ending, kind of cliffhanger ending. However, I did find some of the lines very cringy, and the writing was quite bad, I have to say. I'm like, ugh. There was a lot of like full stops, like a lot of pausing. Like the characters would say, I feel this way. It was very jarring to read, and I did notice that they cut it down a little bit in this one, so hopefully it was edited a little bit better. I don't know if the first one was edited at all. I don't quite know. These are, I think, independently published. It is printed by Amazon, so I don't think they have been edited the best. So just know that going in, that some of the writing style can be quite jarring, but it's an okay story. This one I just feel is definitely suffering from middle book syndrome, and I feel like just some of the plot points just didn't really make sense, especially the, I say, will they won't they romance. I suppose in a way it's a little bit of fake dating, but not well done, which is a pity. So this overall was a 2-star. I kind of wasn't thinking it was going to be more than a 3, but unfortunately I feel just like this was the middle book. This is getting you to the next story. I feel like some of the sex scenes in this were really random, especially there's one after like a battle, and it's like not the time and place. Yeah, just the plotting was just definitely not as good as the first book. So I definitely do want to move on to book 3. I have it, so I'm hoping it picks up. I'm actually looking forward to a different POV. I'm like, if it's Poppy the whole way, I'm gonna be like, ugh. I do think some of the POVs are actually from different characters in different books. I didn't hate this, please don't get me wrong, but it definitely just was a little bit disappointing for me, so I had to give it 2 stars. Just the plotting was just a bit boring, and not much happens, and the romance wasn't that compelling, I don't think, but it definitely had its good points. I actually find these books like really easy to digest and read, even though they're quite chunky books. I did always kind of enjoy my time reading them. So yeah, just a little bit disappointed by this. I'm kind of hoping the third book is a little bit better, but yeah, we shall see. So disappointed. So yeah, that's all the books I read for the first quarter of this year, and I'll leave all these books in the description. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to subscribe, I do anything book related on this channel, so wrap ups like this one, reading vlogs, TBRs, bookshelf organization videos, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.